Oops.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Welcome to the November 2022 meeting of the Board of Directors of the Oregon Country Fair. We're having some technical difficulties getting the YouTube stream going. So we have let the waiting room of the Zoom meeting in. We're working on getting a new YouTube link so that folks can join us on YouTube. In the meantime, if you're in contact with anyone who's trying to be on YouTube, feel free to let them know that they can either join us in Zoom up until our account hits its limit of attendees, or the YouTube link will work. And I have faith that it will work within a few minutes. And the meeting is being recorded so people can come back and hear the beginning of the meeting with announcements and like general agenda review if we don't get the YouTube up before those points happen. So we are recording tonight's meeting. With all hope, it will be live streamed on YouTube as well. And we invite you to join us in Zoom. If you'd like to use the chat function to have discussions or to add comments, you'll have to wait for the YouTube streaming service to work. The chat in Zoom is only for raising hands. So even though we're welcoming all comers here tonight, the chat in Zoom is not for discussion. That makes it really hard to facilitate the meeting and have a stack where people who'd like to share and speak, where their raising of their hands is noticed. So I'd like to welcome the board, staff, and officers to leave your cameras on. Everyone else, please turn your cameras off and then turn them on when you're called upon to speak. And everyone, please mute your mics just so we don't get any background noise. Tonight's a really special meeting. We get to seat a new board tonight, so thanks everyone for coming. I'd like to start with announcements. Does anyone have an announcement? And you can just raise your hands by putting hand in the chat of Zoom. Please don't raise your hands with the icon. That I won't see those. Stephen.
I suppose I should make what I think is a fairly redundant announcement, but we just had an election and elected a new board. So tonight we'll be seating 6 new board members. We'll be seating Thomas Horn, Kevin Levy, John Alexander, and Arna Shaw to 3-year terms. Anthony Jackson will return for a 1-year term, and Ann Rogers has been elected to a 1-year term. There's an elections report on the website. There's a bunch of numbers in there. You can ask me if you have any questions about it later, but I'm excited that we have a new board now. Thank you.
Thanks. Diane?
Hi, yes, I wanted to announce the sad news that Howard Leedy has passed. He was the father of my 2 kids, and he was one of the earliest communications coordinators at the fair in the late 70s and early 80s.
Thanks for sharing, Diane. Sue?
I will start this by saying we have no idea yet, but Food Committee is going to be doing a call out for applications for new booths. The applications will be accepted from December 1st until January 20th, and the application should be available by November 18th on the .net and the .org site. And again, we do not yet know if we will need new food booths. We're reaching out to the food booths who weren't there this year to try to start the process. That's all.
John Pincus?
Hi, just wanted to remind everybody that the Well Hall is having its annual general membership meeting on Sunday at 4 o'clock on Zoom. And it will feature elections and proposal to enact major changes to the current bylaws. I think it's at 4 o'clock. Thanks a lot.
Stephen?
Yeah, so just to tag on to the WOW Hall piece, unlike the WOW Hall needs members to request their ballot, that information is right on the homepage of the WOW Hall. If you click on the election information, it'll tell you how to request a ballot. And unlike last year, even if you were only recently expired in your membership, you have to be renewed before the adjournment of the annual membership meeting to vote this year. So request the ballots now, and then you'll find out if you have in fact expired if you're not sure.
AJ?
It is that time of season again, and I want everybody to know to support your local artists. The holiday market is going to begin on November 19th and go every weekend through Christmas Eve. Please support your local artists, show up and spend your holiday money.
Thanks. I have an announcement from Jen Lynn, our feedback receiver and cataloger and receiver extraordinaire. The 2022 feedback report and the notes from the evaluation meeting are available on the .net site. Please contact the fair office if you do not have access to the internet and need a printed copy. I'd also like to announce that the board met in closed session on October 9th, 16th, and 24th for a personnel matter. And we had a retreat this past weekend at Alice's to welcome and begin the orientation for our newly elected board members. Any more announcements? Okay, let's move on to the minutes from the October 2022 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 2022 meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Paxton seconds. AJ moves and Paxton seconds. Do we have any board discussion on those minutes? Spirit? Go ahead.
Sorry, my brain is not quite working as well as I'd like it to this evening. A lot going through it. I do have a couple amendments that I was delayed in sharing, but it does have to do with agenda review. Should I just save it there or share it there and it could be recorded?
If it's agenda review, then we do it an agenda review. Yeah. But if it's minutes, if it's about the minutes, which is what we're working on right now.
Right, it should have been in the minutes, but it could also be recorded in agenda review because it's going to be there as well. Okay. I'll just save it.
Any further discussion on the minutes from October 2022? Then let's approve these by unanimous consent. I'd like to see a show of hands from the seated board members who are present who do approve it. If you do not offer your consent into the unanimous consent, please make your voice vote heard now. Okay. The October 2022 minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Now let's move on to an agenda review. We have more than a handful of old business items. Is there any that needs to be reviewed, amended, reordered, withdrawn, tabled? John?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple things on the agenda. First off, the agenda item on dealing with the Black Cultural Festival. After further consideration, I don't think it's appropriate for the fair to be trying to negotiate and dictate to the Black Cultural Festival the terms of whatever discussion they were offering us. I think that's an example of privilege that we should not be exercising, and therefore I'd like to take that off the agenda at this time.
Withdraw, okay.
And the second thing is I would like to move the first item of old business to, ideally, I'd like to have that occur after agenda review so that we seat the new board before we go into the rest of the staff reports and treasury's report and so on. Last year, it occurred after membership comments. So either one's fine with me, but I just think we should move it up and have it before all the reports.
Because that would be breaking it out of agenda of the old business. Let's just do a unanimous consent on that one. Do we have unanimous consent from the sitting board to move that up? We'll do it immediately after agenda review before membership comments. If you do not offer your part into unanimous consent, just make your voice vote heard now. I don't see everyone's hands. Okay, so we'll do that one. Thanks for that suggestion, John. We'll do that one right after agenda review. I have two motion. Oh, sorry, we have more people. Sam.
Yeah, I put a motion on suggesting that there be an opportunity for outgoing board members to address the membership. This is something that's happened in the past as just sort of a general way of doing things. My understanding is that it actually has never happened with a motion before. I wanted to put a placeholder for it. But there's been some belly aching about that, and I don't care to have an argument about it. Therefore, I choose to withdraw that motion.
Yeah, just for transparency, my intention as the facilitator of the meeting is to give outgoing board members maybe 1 minute each after the new board is seated. That's how Jack has done it in the past, and I think that's a good thing to carry over today. Sandra?
I want to withdraw the voter pamphlets in mailer. I'm going to do some more work on that with Stephen, our membership secretary, and others, and bring it back.
Great. Spirit.
Sandra, is that the one that I was going to be carrying, just for clarity?
Yeah.
About, okay, so that
I
one's
picked-
taken care of.
I picked yours up, Spirit.
Okay, great. And then I did have a motion that I'd added as new business for this meeting, which was in regard to creating a task force, directing the executive director designate to create a task force to explore moving the dates when the fair falls in proximity to the 4th or too close to the 4th. I am going to have another board member pick that up. I'd like to table it. They can do whatever they want with it next month.
Okay. Hillary.
Under new business, my name is beside update bank signers with new officers. I can't make motions, so a board member should.
We'll
Take
get to
that.
when we do new business at the end of the meeting, but that's a very good point. Thanks, Hillary.
Okay.
Okay. John, do you have another thing to?
Yeah, I would like to add an item under new business, which
do
may
that
or
at
may
the end
not.
of the meeting? We're gonna do new business at the end of the meeting.
Fine, that's fine then.
Okay.
I would.
Okay. AJ?
Yes, I would like to table the motion dealing with censure of, I would like to table that motion and with the idea that the new board is going to be discussing code of conduct updates.
So AJ, just for clarity, are you tabling?
I
it?
want to remove, I'm
For
sorry,
next
I
month?
shouldn't have said table. I want to withdraw that motion.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. So that means we have the election results and officers appointments tonight, appointing Lawrence Taylor to the bylaws committee, approve the carryover of the shuttered venue operators grant. And that's all we're going to work on tonight. Sound good, everyone? Excellent. With that, let's bring us to the first motion of our evening. I move to accept the results of the 2022 election for the Board of Directors of the Oregon Country Fair and to seat John Alexander, Tom Horn, Kevin Levy, and Arna Shaw to 3-year terms, and Anthony Jackson and Ann Bennett Rogers to a 1-year term.
Second,
Sue seconds. Thank you. Do we have any membership discussion, member input? Mouse man.
Good evening. I'm fairly certain that many of us who have been at the fair during, say, the past 2 decades may well have found themselves in one of the cattle auction type bottlenecks where you simply could not move. It can be a very unsettling feeling. What if something caused a panic? Then you might think, well, we're all here to celebrate. This is not an anti-war action or a pride parade or a Black Lives Matter demonstration, all which overamped cops are all around. So we're cool. Well, just a little over a week ago, another packed in group of holiday revelers in South Korea might well have been thinking the same things. Something happened to make that situation go horribly awry. 153 people died and hundreds more were seriously injured. And there wasn't even any cops busting heads. It was a Halloween party.
Nelson, I really am reluctant to interrupt you, but this is discussion about the current board of.
Oh, I thought this was I'm sorry, I thought this was, maybe I should finish now because I got 2 sentences, or you can have me do the whole
Okay,
thing over.
two sentences.
All right. I bring this up now because I want all of us to include this memory of this terrible event when calculating the reasonable overall fair population versus the perception of a necessary bottom line. Think of it. The horror. The horror. But although nobody is going to shut down South Korea, the Oregon Country Fair, an essential event, surely will not survive. I'm finished.
So let me just clarify for everyone else. I'm sorry if I didn't make it clear. What we're talking about now is the motion on the table, the motion I made to accept the results of the 2022 election and seat the new board members. Martha, is that what your hand is up for?
Yes, yes. I just want to say congratulations to all the new board members and big thank you to everyone who ran. Sometimes there's elections where it seems like we barely have enough people running to fill the seats. And it was very interesting this time to have a highly contested election. And given all that's gone on in the last 2 years, to have this many people who want to come and be part of the thing called the management of the Oregon Country Fair. So thank you to everyone who ran and congratulations to everyone who won.
Thanks. Any further member input? Okay, that brings us to board discussion. And this is board discussion on ratifying the election results and seating our new board members. And then there will be time for outgoing board members to have a moment if you so choose. Sam?
I just want to say that I think democracy is a beautiful thing. And one of the most beautiful parts of democracy is the moment when an outgoing body uses a vote to welcome an incoming body. In our national politics within the last few years, a moment like this was marred by hate and violence. And I hope that this vote is a moment for us as the Oregon Country Fair Board to show by example what this democracy means and how we can support each other. Tomorrow is an election that hasn't anything to do with the Oregon Country Fair, other than the fact that it will impact us. And so without urging anyone to vote any particular way, I want to urge everyone who's here in this meeting, if you haven't already done so, to fill out your ballot and turn it in for the national election tomorrow. And I want to thank you all.
Thanks. Spirit.
Yeah, and this is just to the incoming board. Hopefully there'll be time to, address others, but thank you, Sam, for what you said. I fully agree with that. And I have to say that I just feel truly honored to be passing the baton on to the board members who were elected this time. I am grateful to the membership for wise decisions made and grateful to all those who ran. It has been an extremely difficult last handful of years for the organization. And I'm going to give us all some grace here to say that we are going through some major transition. And I have actually seen us find a way forward. And I believe you all are the perfect people to carry that on, along with our new staff and those who continue to serve in the capacities they do. So thank you all so much for willing to step up.
Any further work? Kimmo.
Hi, everybody. George is having a hard time getting on the computer. We were going to try to have him call in. So I'm going to be spending some time trying to continue helping with that. I just wanted to welcome the new board. It's been an honor to serve as the recording secretary for almost the last 5 years. I thank you for the opportunity to learn and to grow and expand my own idea of how I can contribute, because some people didn't think that I had the ability to do this type of job. And it is a job. It's hard work, but thank you for the constructive criticism. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for the friendships that I've earned. To the new board, I encourage you to be respectful. I encourage you to be leaders. I encourage you to see the big picture. Use your good sense. Be judicious. Be diplomatic. Keep informed, but don't micromanage. Be open to constant change. Set goals to meet the mission of the organization. Be effective. Listen. And I just want to share one more quick thing. I know this is my what we call 2 minutes, which I think is great. I like being effective and keeping on task. And I just wanted to quickly say, this is one of my favorite quotes. And I know it's a little positively positive, but that's who I am. And I'm an Aquarius. And here's a little quote from Christian D. Larson. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel that there is something in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile, to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. I love you all.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kimmo.
and I'm going to go help George.
Thanks. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Sue,
Yes, yes, yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
AJ,
I'm sorry, but do I have to abstain because I'm really voting the seat myself?
I don't think you do. I think we're accepting election results, which is coming from the
That's it.
election.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yes.
Thanks for checking though. Sam,
Yes.
Paxton,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
I vote yes. John,
Yes.
excellent. And George is not with us yet tonight. So that vote passes unanimously with George absent.
Well, I mean, I guess you're taking that. I absolutely say yes.
Did I not call you Spirit?
Yeah.
Oh, Spirit, how do you vote?
Absolutely yes.
I'm so sorry. So that vote now passes even more unanimously with George still absent. New board, Arna, Tom, John, Kevin, AJ's continuing, and Anne. Congratulations. You'll be voting on the next motion. Had we been meeting in person at this point, Sam, Spirit, and I would stand up, and you'd stand up from the audience and take your seats at the board table. I know when I was seated, Anne gave me a hug on the pass by. So congratulations. I'd like now to offer outgoing board members the chance to say anything. Sam, Spirit, Kimmo already shared some words. Okay. Well, I'd like to say to the membership, thank you for the opportunity to serve in this position for these past 4 years. Thanks for the membership having faith in the board as a body to take care of decisions in the best interest of the organization. Thank you for the board for being elected to serve in our leadership role. It's been 10% of my life I've spent on the board of this organization. And it's been an honor. Thank you. Spirit?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick in a minute. You know, the last 4 years for me have been a roller coaster, and the stress has been so much so that actually physically, you know, I experienced some illness. However, that being said, I am taking care of myself and feeling better, and I really want to urge the new board to do so as well. It's really important. I really want to say thank you first to the membership. I've seen the worst and the best in us, but most importantly, we are still all of us, and we all have that good and bad. Thank you, though, especially to those who continually offered me support, even when you didn't agree with me. I want to give gratitude to all the directors that I've served with, past and present, no matter whether we agreed or not. I've learned from all of you, but I want to give a special thank you to Sandra. Here's where I don't want to get emotional. Thank you for mentoring me and for being a friend and all the support that you've given. And AJ, I could go on, but you know I've learned so much from you. And I want to thank you for just being a true leader in this organization, and also just walking your path with just top shelf integrity. And I am just so grateful to be your friend. I consider you both friends. And I have a thanks for a lot of you, but I just have to just mention you too. And lastly, to Brian and Naomi, you know, they've been so patient with me, but I am all theirs now. And I will still be here. You can't get rid of me. But I will be on the other side of the table, and I will be supporting you moving forward wholeheartedly. So thank you all for serving.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have another motion? AJ, do you have a motion for us?
Okay. I love you, Spirit. You're awesome. I move to approve Tom Horn as our new president of the Oregon Country Fair.
And who do we have to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, John. You had your hand up. Did I miss you?
No, that was to second the motion.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. Now's the time for member input on the nomination of Tom Horn to be the next president of the Oregon Country Fair. Grumpy.
Sorry. I'm glad you all decided somehow that Tom is going to be the president. It would be nice to know how that process came about. I think it's great that Tom is going to be the president, but it would be nice for us all to know how that came about.
I see no other member input here, so let's go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? Lisa.
I did not know Tom at all when he was elected to the board, but I had a chance to talk with him and connect with him over the weekend. And in just a few minutes time, I just gained a tremendous amount of respect for Tom. And I'm very happy to support him as our new president.
Arna. Arna, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm very happy to support Tom as president. I've known him for many years. He was really just a kid when I met him. I know him through his in-laws. And I've just watched him rise in his career and have been really impressed with how he deals with people and with situations. I think he's a real asset to our board and to our community. And I'm really looking forward to his leadership as president. And I couldn't be more pleased to have him as president, as I think most of the board was, or actually all of the board was. So I'm very happy with this.
John? John, you're muted as well.
Yeah, I know, trying to unmute here. I had not known Tom well before the board retreat. I had some real positive conversations with him. And he has my full trust. And the icing on the cake for me is that I had the opportunity to play some harmonica with him playing guitar. And I appreciate the opportunity to literally be able to play music with the board president.
Sandra?
Yeah, I think Tom brings a lot of skills to the table that we could really use and would benefit us. And he's a great choice to lead this body. I wholeheartedly support him. And I think we're all very impressed with his leadership capabilities. So thanks for being willing to do this, Tom.
Anne?
I had heard a lot about Tom before meeting him, and I was very impressed with him, and he's a very respectful and broad thinking person, and we are lucky that he decided to run for the board and accept the presidency of the board. Thank you.
Max?
Yes, one of the things I came to realize, Tom's new to me also, and I also have been impressed in getting to know him a little bit at the retreat, and I really look forward to working with him. But one of the things that Colleen taught me several years ago is that you can take a new person into the office and you will get new ideas that I think will be very beneficial to the fair. So I really look forward to working with him. Thank you.
John?
Me, John?
Yep.
Thank you. Without going into details, people have mentioned the retreat. I just want to mention that coming into the election, I was a little scared. Coming into the retreat, I was a little scared, and leaving the retreat, I came out really hopeful about a unified voice that I feel like we struck at the retreat. And I think Tom really represents that well. And so I'm enthusiastically excited about this. And on that note, I would like to address, I think it was Grumpy's comment, and without going into details now, ask that maybe as a board, we go back and we document the processes of having these discussions and see if we can bring them forward in a spirit of transparency and consider that for the future on how we do and discuss officers. So trying to balance a delicate line here, but I would like to see us do that because I think the process was wonderful and the membership deserve and I think would enjoy hearing about it.
Kevin?
Yes, I haven't known Tom for very long either, and I can tell you, you meet people in your life that are amazing, and you just know they are. It's funny, me and Tom still couldn't believe that we even got voted in, and so having him as a leader is going to be fantastic. His background, his demeanor, his wonderful jokes. I think he's going to be a welcome addition, and I am so excited to work with him and everyone here. And for all you members out there, the process was wonderfully easy. We all unified. It's wonderful. Thanks.
AJ?
Yeah, I want to speak to the membership. I want to acknowledge that through your vote, I believe this board listened. I believe you were asking us to change the tone. You were asking us to find a way to start working together. And we listened, I believe. And at our retreat, we decided as a unit of folks who all are listening to you, that we wanted to present to you a person that had not only integrity, but has a presence and the ability to do what you're asking us to do, is to do the work of the organization with love, respect, and honoring each other even when we disagree. I believe Tom Horn is the person that will lead us into that. We won't be perfect, but I think I want to acknowledge that we heard you and we're listening.
Okay. Let's vote. Is George with us yet? It doesn't look like George has made it into the meeting yet. So we'll have George as absent. Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sue?
A very happy yes.
AJ?
Yes.
Anne?
Most definitely, yes.
John Silvermoon?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
John Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin?
Oh, yes.
And Tom, you will have to recuse yourself on this one, which means that this motion passes unanimously with Tom Horn recused and George absent. Tom, do you have a motion for us? Congratulations. And now, do you have a motion for us?
Thank you. I'm rather speechless, and I appreciate the kind words, and it's humbling. I would like, Lily, if you're willing, I would like you to continue moderating this meeting so that I can pay really close attention, if you'd be willing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion for us?
I do. I do.
I think Tom's going to make the motion.
Okay.
And
you can second it, Paxton.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd like to make a motion that we have 3 vice presidents. And those vice presidents would be Sandra, Lisa, and AJ. And it's a continuation of what we had previously.
And I second that motion. Thank you.
Excellent. Do you want to read their titles into the motion? Do you think that's relevant for does anyone think that's relevant for the records? No? Okay. Okay, great. Member input? Seeing no member input. Oh, Stephen?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this has been, you have liaisons to committees, and I think it's been unnecessarily confusing and diluting of authority. It makes it so that you don't know who you're supposed to go to. I don't think that, and it's not clear what the succession is. Any succession plan, should something happen to the president, should be clear to the entire membership with 3 vice presidents. And I really think you should have 1 vice president, and others simply serve as liaisons to whatever functions they are attached to. Thanks.
Kirk?
Hi, actually, this is Peaches talking on Kirk's account. Hi, everyone. I would like to hear the titles for the vice presidents again, just so that we all know kind of like for the different areas of specialty, who we would contact, if we have something we want to say or know about any specific area. And I'm wondering if there's been any thought about maybe even sort of the three vice presidents drafting up some sort of like job description for themselves or their position, and with, you know, goals and kind of a description of what they're focusing on. I think that that would be really helpful and help, you know, kind of garner support for this idea of the three vice presidents, which I like and I was supportive of when it happened. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
John Pincus?
Yeah, I would like to echo what Steve said. I think that the having three vice presidents instead of one doesn't really fulfill the purpose of succession, somebody that can be mentored by the chair or the president and be ready to take over in the event that something happens that causes the president to be unavailable. So I think I encourage the board to revisit this system of multiple vice presidents, either now or in the future. Thanks.
Lucy?
Thank you. Yeah, I too am troubled by this. I'm troubled by the lack of transparency. I am troubled by an absence of not only job descriptions for these positions, but also an absence of the general membership having job descriptions for the staff. I'm disappointed.
Spirit?
You do know how I feel, however, it was in closed session, so I'm going to share an open session. I support Tom making this motion. However, I highly encourage there to be a decision made about who a lead successor would be in this case. I believe that it brings continuity in title and to a certain degree of experience. However, it does not bring continuity to the membership of this organization, nor does it bring continuity to our executive director. And the sole role of this position is to take over should something happen to you. And I'm knocking on wood, you know, all over the place. I'm going to support you and the board no matter what, but I really highly encourage you to make sure that there's a lead successor here.
Palmer?
I would say it's not exactly a continuation, as I believe there's a change in VPs, as in I believe Lisa Parker was one.
Is one.
Palmer, just to clarify, the motion is Sandra, Lisa, and AJ right now.
My apologies. I will go to my second part, which is I disagree with Steve Berkson about board liaisons. They facilitate communication between the board and committees. It's a procedure that was created to solve the problem I understand Steve to be expressing. Having been a board liaison and been on multiple committees with board liaisons, I think it's an excellent process. The list of who is a liaison to what does need to be kept current. Thank y'all.
Heather?
I have to echo that I think this is not a good idea, and it seems very willy-nilly and unprofessional to me. And I think we need a president and a vice president so that things are clear. Thanks.
Dean?
Yes, I'm excited that we're actually going to have the three vice presidents continuing. But for clarity and to help eliminate this kerfluffle that we're hearing right now, I would like to hear what area each one of the vice presidents has been assigned to. And it seems to me when we came up with this idea, one of those vice presidents were designated as the successor. Thank you.
Let's move on to board discussion. Is there any board discussion? John?
When this arrangement came up last year, I voted against it. The reasons I gave last year still stand with me. I think it's important to have a single vice president, that the key responsibility in the bylaws for the vice president is to take over from the president in the event the president is incapacitated and otherwise unable to fulfill the duties of the office. And I think one person ought to be in that succession role, so that they can work closely with the president and be prepared to step in. The arrangements that was made last year was to have a rotation, where one of the vice presidents, if it happened during one 4-month period, it would be one vice president. The next 4-month period, it would be a different vice president that would step in. And the next 4-month period, if the incapacitation occurred, it would be the third vice president. I think that's very confusing. The co-vice presidents and the 3 vice presidents rose at historically at a time when the board had difficulties trying to decide who officers should be as a kind of compromise. I don't think we as a board spent the time that could have been spent to, I think the assumption was made that we would have an impasse on trying to select one. I know that there are board members who would have been very surprised to know the extent to which I was willing to compromise in selecting a single vice president. I didn't have the opportunity to do that because we kind of defaulted to doing the same thing we did last year. It's clear to me that this will be passed tonight. And just as I said last year, I will work to make whatever passes be successful. Though I have serious reservations about it, and I'm not able to vote for it. Thank you.
Paxton?
I think it actually worked quite well last year. I'm not that worried about succession because I haven't seen the real, it will be a rare situation that something happens to anyone, and there will always be somebody that's able there to pick it up, and we can easily appoint somebody, change things around if we need to at the next board meeting. So that to me is a minor quibble. I think it worked last year. I think it gets more people involved, and I think Tom can figure out a perfect way of dealing with the problems of who might replace him or not. There's several different options. I'm leaving it up to him. One of the other things I wanted to mention is Lisa was bylaws and policy. Sandra was philanthropy and fundraising, and AJ was a membership and membership inclusion. So those are the roles of the 3 vice president jobs, and they all need somebody paying full-time attention to it. So I'm happy with it. Thank you.
AJ?
So again, I addressed the membership and their concerns. This is not only just a compromise of the board going forward. This is a creation basically of a leadership team within the board that helps assist the president on so many different levels. I will talk about the VP of membership. As many of you know, I spent a lot of my time listening to the membership, and whether that be meeting with folks, answering emails and texts and things like that, so that their voices are heard by a sitting board member outside of our meetings. For reasons I think are important, your voice is limited in our meetings. And so this gives you a point person to have your concerns be heard and create space for you as a member. I will let the other two vice presidents talk about their own parts. But I will say this, we are talking about moving forward. And one of the decisions that we talked about is the importance of moving towards one vice president. As many of you guys have seen over the last couple of years, we have differences of opinion on the board. And this was the best way to have every voice represented, not only on the board, but in the membership. We are a large membership with varying different opinions. I think it's important that you know that the three vice presidents and the president have met, and we have talked about a succession plan, and we have that installed already. So that we need time to be able to share with you that plan. I know it feels confusing right now, but it's not really that confusing. It's pretty straight, it's pretty on point. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. It's like, I want us to remember that every voice in this organization needs to be represented. And I think this right now in this time, this does that. So thank you.
Arna.
So I too would prefer one vice president, but this year it did seem like this option of having the three vice presidents was the best option for us. And so although I spoke for having just one vice president at a retreat, I did come around to this option. And I think that our goal for maybe next year is to have a single vice president. But as AJ has stated, it really worked best for this year. They each have their different roles. They did it last year. I believe that working with Tom, they've already figured out this succession plan. And that this will be good for us for this year. Next year we'll look at other options and see if we want to change it. But I'm in favor of this for this year. It was going to be the best for us, and I think it will work.
John Alexander.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for this great input. In general, I agree that the co-VP model is not traditional, and I normally would not support it and would look for a more traditional model. However, this is the Oregon Country Fair. And I do think we should consider models in the future, and I do think that we will. However, given the transition that I'm hopeful we're making right now on behalf of our membership, I support the VP slate model. And I think this leadership team, as AJ put it, represents this transition that we are all on. I believe we are all on board the making, and it is our intent. It really represents that and the membership, and I think that was expressed. I agree that job descriptions would be good, and I'd like to see that prioritized on our work plan. So with that input, I'd like to, say that I will advocate for that. And I will also want to reiterate as suggested now by more than one member, that I would like us to describe the process to our membership of our officer conversations in the spirit of transparency. And I will advocate that this be prioritized in our work plan as well. And I am in support of this motion as it stands.
Kevin?
Yes, I agree with John. I think definitely getting it out there for the membership, keep providing clarity. That's going to be the best way to communicate. I also have a lot of faith in all three of these VPs, that there are some of the best we have, just like all of you that have been here and working hard for years. And I know that, you know, if Tom was beamed up in a spaceship and we had one of them three to choose from, I feel good about that. So hang in there, folks. We will make it happen. So thank you.
Lisa?
Yes, you can add me to the list of folks who would prefer a single vice president. I would like to say that for me, the decision to continue with the same structure that we had last year of the three co-vice presidents, for me, it wasn't a compromise. It was intentional as a means of supporting this transition. We have a new president who is also new to the board. And I think that having that continuity is really important to make his transition into the role more successful. And so I see it as a way of supporting our decision of appointing Tom as our president.
Sandra?
Yeah, for me, the entire issue around the vice presidential positions this year had to do with unity. You know, I think that this organization needs unity more than anything else. And coming together and being able to work effectively as a group was our, I believe, most important task. And this was the way forward toward helping to create and maintain the unity that we were able to find at the retreat. And I think that that is hugely important and greatly outweighs any other consideration for me. So I think this is the way forward this year. Thank you.
And with that, we shall vote. George is absent. Lisa, AJ, and Sandra will be recusing themselves for this vote. So Paxton?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
John Silvermoon?
No.
Arna?
Yes.
John Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
That motion passes, 7 in favor, John opposed, Lisa, AJ, and Sandra recused, and George absent. That motion passes with 7 yes votes. Tom, do you have a motion for us on secretary?
Would you mind, Paxton, would you mind helping me with this just as I learn names and learn roles? I would love your assistance in this.
Yes. I believe we would like to appoint Stephen Deardorff as our, and I'm not sure I have the exact pronunciation of his last name, but as our secretary for the fair. Actually, as membership secretary of the fair, let me see if I get this right.
Paxton, the name is Dyerkoff.
Dyerkoff, excuse me. Thank you for the correction. I really appreciate it. I'm actually very poor with names, so I've forgotten my own in the past. Anyway, that we would like to appoint Stephen Dyerkoff as the Oregon Country membership I'm just going to say secretary of the fair for this moment. we have, and I'll stop at that point for a second.
So Paxton's moving. Tom, do you second?
I do second, yes.
Okay.
And the discussion here is Kimmo is retiring as recording secretary. And so the concept is that Stephen will take up the responsibility, the official responsibilities of the recording secretary. And I believe Norma is going to be doing the actual job of recording, the actual work of the recording. So this is the intent of this motion. If we intend to continue 2 secretaries, because we believe that both the membership secretary and the recording secretary are important positions that have enough work of their own. So until we can find a replacement for Kimmo, Stephen will be being the responsible person for both jobs. Thank you very much.
Okay. Member input. Spirit.
Yeah, I had time to talk with
I think Spirit's connection just went out. Spirit, send me a message if you get back on, and we'll go to Jane.
I thought Spirit was off the board. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Stephen.
John Pincus? John?
As Jane just said, thank you to both Norma and Stephen, but I do hope that we return to the system of membership and recording being separate secretaries soon. I understand that Norma couldn't be the secretary because she's an employee. So guess that's the best we can do, and congratulations. Thanks.
Spirit, you want to try again?
Yeah, is it better without video?
Perfect.
Okay. I just want to say that I made time actually this weekend to speak with Stephen more than I have in this last year. And it was really great, and I was reassured, and he's absolutely up for the job. I think we definitely need a recording secretary as soon as we can get one, because we don't want to burn him out. But I am thoroughly convinced that he is here for the membership in the organization. And I thank you so much, Stephen, for taking this on. It's a heavy lift.
Okay, let's go to board discussion. Lisa.
I've had the opportunity to work with Stephen a few times, and I have complete confidence that he is quite capable of doing this job, and I'm happy to support Stephen continuing in his role as secretary.
Sandra.
Yeah, I just want to say I've found Stephen to be very thoughtful, meticulous, and informed. And I think we're really lucky to have him in this position. So thank you, Stephen.
Paxton.
I have to agree. I think we're really moving forward with having Stephen at the helm there. I do want to mention we have full intention of keeping both recording secretary and membership secretary. Those are 2 jobs that are too much for one person in reality. Thank you.
John Alexander.
Yeah, I was impressed with a lot this weekend, but Stephen stood out. The depth of his knowledge, his support and offers to help with things, and his willingness to take on even more. And I know it takes a lot of work already what he's put into membership. So I can't be more impressed with what Stephen does for us. So thank you.
AJ.
Yes, I support this. I want to say again to the membership, this Stephen has has you in mind with every decision that he is making, and everything he speaks to us as board members about. I look forward to working with him as VP of membership to continue his journey to try to make sure that the membership's information is secure on whatever database we come up with, and that we continue our strive to get the vote out even more year after year. We have to increase that, and he and I had some time to talk about that, and I'm really impressed with some of his ideas, and I look forward to working with him.
Marna?
I just want to second all the praise that has been being heaped on Stephen here. He definitely deserves it, and I've been really impressed with his work.
Kevin?
I wanted to show my full support as well. Been extremely impressed with Stephen. Again, his technical knowledge, his depth of field, and it's like he knows everything. He's amazing. We're very lucky to have him, and I agree with Paxton. We'll get a recording secretary as soon as we can to make sure that his lift is not too heavy. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, let's vote.
Wait.
Did I miss you, John? John?
Yeah, I was having difficulty getting
Okay.
my hand in the chat box. Yeah, I didn't know Stephen prior to last year. His predecessor, who served in this position, I believe, for 30 years, brought him to us and highly recommended him. That recommendation has borne itself out. I'm real pleased, and I look forward to Stephen serving as our secretary for the next 30 years.
And with that, let's vote. Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Alexander. Sorry, John Alexander. I'm going by
Switching
board.
it up on us.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm going by board year groupings, and I decided to mix it like
Woohoo! Yes.
A team, B team, C team, then C team, A team, B team. So it's going to be confusing. Everyone stay on your toes. John Alexander, you're up.
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
AJ?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
John Silvermoon?
I will vote yes, and you could actually refer to us John with an H and John without an H. I'll know who you mean.
Okay. And Sandra?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with George absent. Tom, do you have a motion for us on treasurers?
Yes. I move to appoint Hillary Anthony and Linda Gingrich as co-treasurers.
Second.
Was that AJ? AJ seconds. Fantastic. Member input. Okay, no member input. Okay, Spirit, you got it.
Last time tonight, I promised these were all important to me. I just want to say thanks to the powers that be of the Peach that these two are willing to hang in there with us. I do not know where we'd be without them. Thank you both so very, very much.
Martha.
I agree. I am always impressed at the amount of time, the amount of patience, the willingness to explain, and the teamwork that these two treasurers show, and their dedication to the fair. The money's in some level the most important part, and it's in good hands knowing those two people are taking care of it. So thank you both. It's not the most important part, but it's a very important part, and we have good, competent people. Thank you.
Sue, I'll hold you over till board discussion. Grumpy?
Yes. These two have been very, very, very good. In fact, great. So
continue on with them. Thank you.
Lisa Cooley.
I just have to completely echo what everybody's saying. I'm so grateful to have these two ladies doing that job. We are so happy for you and really support you. And I just thrilled that you want to stick around and continue to do the job. Thank you.
And now we'll transition to board discussion. Sue?
Sorry, it didn't want to work. I've been going to budget meetings for a number of years now, and I am so impressed with Hillary, especially because I know how long she's been doing it. And Linda does amazing work. We are blessed to have them both. Thank you for being willing to continue your remarkable service.
AJ.
Well, typically, I think of myself as a pretty smart dude that understands quite a bit. These two individuals, what they do with numbers and money and how they can explain where things are and to so many different groups of people is astounding to me. They make me feel smart about our numbers. And I think that is important for every board member to feel smart about where we're going with our money. And they do an excellent job of doing that for us. And I am so grateful for them. And I can't wait to serve with them again.
Sandra.
Well, I just can't say enough about the thoughtfulness and experience and expertise of these two, Linda and Hillary, and their willingness and ability to tackle some of the really big issues. And so much of it comes back to budget and do it within a really positive environment. So they're just wonderful. So thank you. I totally support them.
Tom?
Yeah, as somebody who's just really taking it all in and being onboarded currently, I really absolutely appreciated the way Hillary and described almost the story behind the numbers over time, and how the budget, it reflects the story of the fair through really difficult times and through times that were successful. And I just think she's incredibly adept at not only accounting and numbers, but also telling a story through those numbers. So I'm very appreciative of both of them.
John Alexander.
Yeah, this is as a board, this is one of our primary responsibilities, to look over the fiscal well-being of the organization. And these numbers are enormous. And I am so impressed with not only how these folks have corralled these numbers from so many different places and brought them together in a very clear and transparent way, and then are able to explain them. I feel really confident. That's one of the things that fiscal well-being should make all board members nervous. And this is something that eases that a bit, because they have an incredible handle on this and in the way they do it and the way they present it. And so thank you again for these officers who are willing to step up in this nomination.
Anne?
I just want to say, I remember when Hillary first introduced me to Linda, and you could tell immediately that they could work well together. And I feel they have, and in presentations, they tag team well together. And to me, they always seem willing to answer questions or help me find what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Kevin?
Yes, I just wanted to express my gratitude as well and echo what everybody's saying. It is amazing what you two ladies do, and I just don't know where we would be without you. And so anything you ever need, I will cut your grass, whatever that takes to keep you around. And yes, I love that you can explain the numbers, make us understand them, and as well as your willingness to be open to ideas and concepts. And that's just wonderful. So yes, thank you so much for your service.
Paxton? Paxton, you're muted.
I really appreciate our co-treasurers. They do an excellent job. I also want to applaud the work they're doing right now with Kirsten in bringing, really going through and revamping our accounting systems to kind of bring us into the 21st century, to really get them on a rock solid foundation. That work I've been truly impressed with, and I thank you. So.
John Silvermoon.
Yeah, I want to thank both Linda and Hillary for willing to continue the position. And in particular, Hillary, I know that my meticulous attention to detail and questions arising from that meticulous attention has sometimes been, I guess, challenging for you. But I wanted to express my sincere appreciation and thanks for the service you've given and for the service you're willing to continue to give. Thank you.
That brings us to a vote. Arna.
An enthusiastic yes.
John Alexander.
Are you really keeping us on our toes? Yes.
Kevin.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Tom.
Yes, absolutely.
AJ.
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
John Silvermoon.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes, and yes.
Paxton.
Yes, yes, yes.
And Sue.
Yes.
So that motion passes unanimously with George absent. At this point, so we're done with the elections and officer appointments. We skipped over the bulk of the middle of our meeting. I think that it's important that we get to the staff, our executive director's report and the treasurer report. Tom, is it okay with you if we go back to that portion of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So let's hear the staff report from Kirsten.
Thank you, Lily, keeping me on my toes. Not sure where we were going. Well, thank you, everybody. Good evening. And thanks for joining tonight. First, I'd like to thank all of the board members that are terming off tonight for their service to OCF. You have led us through some of the most difficult times in OCF as it relates to the pandemic. It is your commitment of time and energy that has carried us through. And a thank you to Lily, our outgoing board chair and president, for her tireless efforts on behalf of OCF. Second, I want to welcome the new board members and thank them for stepping up to shepherd OCF into the future and to through our continued recovery. Board service is a selfless act, and the membership is fortunate to have your knowledge and experience guiding it. And I look forward to a productive 2023. To my report, the financials, the 2021 tax filings are complete. The 990 and C12 are done and have been provided to the board. Crew and staff budgets will be given to the budget committee for their review this Friday, November 11th. We are working on quotes for the SVOG audit that must take place by December 2023 and provided to the Small Business Administration. I am currently working on the SVOG classifications and budget allocations to meet the grant requirements. We will conduct a financial review for 2022 as well. I want to talk about Culture Jam. Robin Bernardi, our much beloved Culture Jam program director, has tendered her resignation, and her last day will be November 18th. I would like to give a moment to Robin Bernardi to speak to the board. Robin?
Thank you, Kirsten. I really appreciate it. I know this is it's big news for folks that didn't know this was coming down the pike. Let me read something because it's a big step for me. Let me just read something I wrote so that I can get and touch all the notes, but I'll keep it short. So yes, I'll be stepping back soon from my role as program director of Culture Jam and be mentoring a new director throughout 2023. The hiring process will begin on November 28th when the job description is posted on the FAIR website. The deadline for applications will be set for sometime in late December. It is a big shift for our organization. Certainly internally, you know, personnel wise, to change directors for Culture Jam. I've been working for the fair now for 21 years. And during that time, Culture Jam really became one of my life purposes. So for me, I want to see it thrive into the future in a way I really know it can. I'll be supporting the transition every step of the way, and I'm really grateful that the organization is committed to this program and sees its value on so many levels. I privately considered making this change in the fall of 2019, after our fantastic fair in 2019. We had a fantastic Culture Jam at the same time. But at that time, when I was considering it, the ED at that time had only been in place for a few months. So I decided, okay, I'll give it another year, and that was prudent to wait until he was in place and had gone through a cycle. But then the pandemic hit. So it was all hands on deck. And I believe that now, with Kirsten's solid professional support and stability, this transition can finally be carried out successfully, and I cannot be more grateful. I was assigned to help Culture Jam launch its first week-long event in 2002. This began a rich and fruitful partnership for me with Leslie Scott. At the time, Leslie was in her 11th successful year as the fair's general manager. It was her creative vision to have our organization adopt this heart-healing and revolutionary youth camp model as an active philanthropic program of the fair. It took time, tenacity, and the support of many dedicated youth and adults to convince the board to allow her to implement it. And I want to thank her for trusting me in helping her, her dream come true, and all the people who are behind it. And it's been an honor to take it forward and sustain it through these years. My need to transition is deeply personal, driven by a calling to discover what new creative paths can spring up for me as I enter my 60th year. That said, my most important intention for the new year will be to carefully pass my knowledge on to someone wise and wonderful who can take the event into its next decade or more of good work in honor of the fair and into the world. As I reported at our last board meeting, Culture Jam is still very much alive. It has a vibrant community of highly dedicated and enthusiastic mentor staff, kitchen staff, new youth, hundreds of alumni, parents, dedicated donors, and community partners still fired up by it and its dynamic and innovative programming. Everyone is just waiting for Culture Jam to get off the ground once again to continue its legacy of making significant, long-lasting, positive change in the lives of teenagers. Everyone who has worked, volunteered, supported, or otherwise taken part in Culture Jam has led to its success. The fair has been really good to me, and I feel very lucky and very grateful. As I said, I will not be going away in 2023. I will just be busy transferring knowledge and soothing my ego every time the new hire comes up with a better idea than I have. But it's all part of the process. So mostly I look forward to Culture Jam continuing to thrive. That's number one. Lots of love to all of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Very much appreciate it. And we will absolutely carry on Culture Jam in your honor and in the honor of the organization. Thank you so much. So onto my administration. Norma Sachs, as it was mentioned earlier, will serve as the interim board scribe until a board secretary is identified and confirmed by the board. We will be running ads in the FFN and making, reaching out to the community for candidates. So if you know someone or if you're interested, please let us know. Fair Care, there is going to be a board stakeholder meeting this Thursday on the draft progressive solution policy. We did hold one with the bums on Tuesday, October 11th. That was very fruitful and beneficial. And we took their recommendations, are going to be bringing those forward to the board. There will be a membership stakeholder meeting on the draft progressive solutions policy scheduled for Thursday, December 8th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. And we will send out a message to all members to get that on their calendars. So please participate if you are available. For projects, the Doug's Green gutter replacement is scheduled for next week. We are still planning on doing the interior painting of Doug's Green in January. The durables dishwasher install is done. We are waiting for one last technician to come in and install all of the chemical connections, which they're not really chemicals, it's rinse and sanitizer. So we're really excited to be able to get the durables team up and running with their new dishwasher. So that's a really big success. The Chillville roof has been replaced, so we're really grateful to have that done as well before the rain set in. The reefer dock that we built this year has been dismantled and stored over the winter. The compost slab, we are still working on that. We've gotten an excavation quote and we're still waiting on a slab quote, and we hope that we will be able to initiate that work in early 2023. We did pick up geodesic domes in Portland from the circus, and we look forward to working with stakeholders on where we might put these 4 geodesic domes and how we might incorporate them into our event. The pump house at the winery, which handles the water, has been rebuilt. Entertainment applications are now up on the .org site and will close on February 15th. We have the guideline request change form went up on the .net site, and those will close on December 15th. And then the craft applications will go up in early January of 2023 and will close in April of 2023. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and congratulations to all of the new board members. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Kirsten. And thank you so much, Robin, for your work on Culture Jam over the years. John has a question for Kirsten, I think.
Well, question and observation. The guideline deadline, December 15th. I don't recall when it was last year, but I know in previous years it's been towards the end of December. I think it would be important to make sure that people realize it's coming earlier. So I think as much publicity around that would be helpful. I remind board liaisons, that'd be an important thing to let your committees know, so that they aren't thinking that it's the end of December when it has traditionally been. Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to the treasurer's reports and any budget items. Hillary, Linda?
I can start. I'm not aware of any budget items. And as Kirsten mentioned, we have the 990 completed. The main thing we have coming up is working on the revenue projection, presenting that to the board. The board's gotten copies of the proposal that came from the Financial Planning Committee, and it is to not increase prices other than to reinstate the increase that we had postponed for 2022 of raising booth fees around 10% or so. So the actual projection of revenue and the proposed prices are on the .net site. We are trying to schedule a board work session to talk about the finances, to talk about the capacity, the growth management, and lead into the revenue projection. And stay tuned as we try to find a date for that. You know, I'm hoping we can do it before the revenue projection. So there's a little bit in flux there, but we are trying to get that done. I just want to also, remark what an amazing weekend it was, and say that I'm really excited to work with this new board and really appreciate everybody's time and effort that has the outgoing board members and the incoming ones. And that's it for me.
I just wanted to add on that as Kirsten said, the staff has been gathering all of the budget information, and so that is coming on Friday. And so the budget committee is going to start meeting and looking at that. I'm really excited that staff has helped us this year to gather information, and I think that we're going to be able to not just limp along, but actually, make some really positive changes and do some really good work with the support of our staff as well as our budget committee. And then I also too want to echo, I'm so jazzed to work with this board. I am very excited about it. Thank you for the folks who are stepping off, but I am also super excited for the year going forward. This weekend was very rejuvenating for me in that way. So thank you. And I'm thank you for the opportunity to serve, and I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Are there any budget adjustment items we need this month? Okay, John, do you have a question?
Just a comment. I noticed that both the CT 12 and the 990 apparently have already been submitted. I know this was a unusual year, but I do think that the board's responsibilities in terms of its fiduciary responsibilities, financial oversight for the organization. I'd appreciate if next year we can try to get these to the board in time for the board to see them before they're submitted, because I think that's relevant to our role and our legal responsibilities. Thank you.
John, I agree, and we tried it. You know, it's difficult working with, you know, an outside accountant sometime of trying to get the timing right. If you see anything that needs to be changed, as we have done before, we can always go back and amend. It's better not to have to do that. But if we have to, you know, if we catch a correction afterwards, you know, we will do that. And I think, you know, it's been a learning curve for everybody this year, you know, with, you know, the staff getting on board. And I do hope that we get it done a little bit quicker next year.
Okay, I'll let you know if I find anything. I'm still, it's lengthy, they're lengthy. I'm still going through them. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra, you've got a hand up.
I do. I was wondering if the approval of the carryover for the SVOG grant would be appropriate at this point. It's listed under old business, but it has to do with budget.
Hillary, do you think it should be an old business item or a general agenda item, or do you think it should be in the budget adjustment section?
Either way, it doesn't seem like it will necessarily get crowded out of the agenda this month. I'm a little tired.
Well, Sandra, as the maker of the motion, where do you feel like it belongs?
I don't think it's going to take very much time. I might as well just do it now.
Okay, Sandra, will you read the motion for us?
Yeah. Move to approve the carryover of the shuttered venue operators grant already approved capital expenditures. And
oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask for a second.
Second. Okay, so I just wanted to real briefly say this is basically a housekeeping measure. And we approved the 2022 budget, which included capital expenditures. We have until the end of February to spend this money or lose it. So this motion approves the ability to continue spending on some of the capital expenditures in 2023 that are not yet completed. And that deadline is the end of February, as I said. And these projects have already been vetted and approved.
Okay, and I heard Sue second the motion first. That brings us to member input on this motion. Okay, board discussion. Seeing no board discussion, we can vote. George is still absent. Let's do AJ.
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
John Silvermoon?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
Kevin? Sorry, John Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
And Sue?
Yes.
So that motion passes unanimously with George absent. Thanks. That brings us back to member input. Member input is the time in our agenda that we give for members to speak to items that are not otherwise on the agenda. So we're going to continue using the chat for raising hands and only raising hands, not discussion. When I call on you, feel free to turn your mics and your videos on if you'd like to share your face with the meeting room tonight. We had been doing timed member input, but and then 2 minutes total speaking time for a meeting. And we'd use member input, and then if you wanted to have time for later agenda items, we'd ask you to be just mindful of how long you spoke now. I didn't time people as they spoke on the agenda items we've already had. So just be mindful, please notice that we're 9 minutes out from our scheduled ending time. I think since we started late, I would suggest going until 9:15 anyhow. But please let me know if you'd like to speak. I see Lucy first.
Thank you, Lily. I'm sorry, in the conversation about the recording secretary position, I missed what the process is for how does one apply, submit what's the process for being willing to step up into that role?
Thanks. Chris? Chris, are you out there and would like to speak? Okay. Is there any more member input tonight?
Yeah, I was looking up some other organizations that had vice presidents and how they name them. I didn't get a chance to enter that in when you were talking about it, but they, like in the University of Oregon as example, there's a vice president of communications. They attach what the responsibility of that vice president is to that person. They also have a position called the senior vice president, which is the person that takes over should something happen to the need a change and things. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Indigo?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to pop in with a quick little story about that bowl that is sitting there with you, Lily. So when I was facilitating the board so many years ago, I got that bowl and to begin our meetings with every month. And as I was walking down the fair path one day, we all know about the fair magic, I bumped into somebody who stopped me and he was talking to me, and I feel oh so bad at this moment because I can't remember his name, but I was like, oh, I would love to have a peach scribed into the middle of this singing bowl. And he said, I could do that. And he did. He took it and he put the peach in it, and so it's there. And then when I concluded my work being the facilitator, I handed it off to the next facilitator, who then handed it off to the next facilitator, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to give out an anonymous thank you to that kind man who took on putting the peach in the bottom of the bowl, and to all the facilitators who have facilitated these meetings before I stepped in, and all those who have facilitated up to this moment, and all those who may facilitate in the future time. May this bowl be passed on from facilitator to facilitator until this story is lost into history. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Indigo. I hope you could all see, I was trying to show the peach on the inside, but since I'm in a room with overhead lights, I don't know if the glare was too much. But there is a peach inside, and it does say Oregon Country Fair on the base. I think my overhead lights are too much for that, but thanks for sharing the story, Indigo. Lisa Cooley.
That was a great story, Indigo. Thanks for sharing that. It's kind of cool to know that history. I just want to quickly say thank you so much to Robin for everything she's done for Culture Jam, and it's so appreciated. I have kids that, I don't know if you guys know, but I work at North Eugene High School, and I have kids that have participated in Culture Jam, and it's just so powerfully meaningful to them all. So I really appreciate the work you did with it, Robin, and I hope that we can really continue in your honor to keep it just as magical as ever.
Thank you.
And I also want to say that congratulations to all y'all new people that are coming onto the board, and thank you so much for those of you who are leaving, for everything that you've done for this organization. I also was a board member that left, and it was a tumultuous affair and very difficult for me to participate in. And I'm really happy to know that the process that you guys went through this year at the retreat to pick people was joyful, and that people feel hopeful coming out of that retreat. And that gives me just a lot of pleasure to hear it, and a lot of hope personally for a great board. So thank you all for everything.
Martha.
I am sorry for talking so much, but I didn't want the meeting to end without saying a particular thank you to you, Lily. You've been such a wonderful president. You've given so much. If we'd been meeting in person, there would have been big applause, huzzahs. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, Martha. Like I said, I'm going to take 1 second for myself here, because now I'm a member. I turned 40 this week, and I've spent 4 years on the board. So it really is true. I spent 10% of my life working on the board of this organization, even though I've spent 100% of my life being part of the fair. 10% to the board. So I like that. I like nice round numbers. I thought that was significant. Thank you. Seeing no one else up for member input, we normally would go to committee and work group reports now. I think that just because we've spent so much time welcoming our new board members and officers with all of those motions we had to get through tonight, I think it prudent that we do committee and work group reports in writing. So if you submit them to Stephen Dyerkoff, I think that's the right place for them to go now that Kimmo stepped down. They'll make it into the minutes. The board will have a chance to read them, and they'll be in the minutes. So thank you for that. And this brings us to our old business. We have one motion remaining on our old business docket for the night. Paxton, do you have that for us?
Yes, I do. I would actually, and I want to do a little bit of explanation after I make the motion and get a second, because there's some misunderstanding about how the bylaws committee works out there, and I'd like to describe our process. I moved to appoint Lawrence Taylor to the bylaws committee.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Sue seconds. Okay. Okay, Paxton, go ahead with your explanation.
The bylaws committee doesn't meet all the time. There's been times that we're not in operation for several years. We've been down. It's kind of a standing group of members of the bylaws committee that when the board comes up with a bylaws problem, they get sent, the committee gets sent the question of this. And the last charge we got from the board was to go through the bylaws and kind of revise it and bring it up to date, kind of section by section, word by word. And we've been doing that for probably the last 2 years. We're in the last couple of months of this work. And we've been bogged down in a problem with where we've needed somebody with legal experience on the staff. LT at one time is a very long-running member of the bylaws committee, was kind of back up to Russell as who our main lawyer was. And when we're trying to go through this, we had several questions. Do we need to go to legal advice or not? We erred on caution and spent several months trying to get feedback from the legal team, and which worked, but it took a long, long time. So we kind of recruited Lawrence to come back to the committee meetings and help us. basically, as a lawyer, he's not giving us legal advice. That's one thing he can't do. But he could tell us when we need to go send the question to the lawyers. And that has sped up our work a lot. He is a past member of bylaws, wants to continue to be a member of bylaws, and has sent a letter requesting appointment. He lost his position on the bylaws committee when he lost his board election. For many, many years, he was the board liaison to the bylaws committee. And when you're a board liaison committee, you're a voting member of that committee. And so he was there for over a decade. We've really ended up relying on him. When we lost Russell and then lost Lawrence, we had a lot of work that we were doing we couldn't do. And so we really went and worked on trying to recruit him to come back into the organization and help us. So that's the reason for this appointment. We did not do a general call out because we're trying to finish up a document where we need specific skills, and he matches those skills. Once we get back in, when we get a new charge from the board, we will probably do a call out for more members. But at this point in time, we're trying to finish a project, and new people, in a sense, would only delay it. But it just didn't seem necessary. What we needed was experience, an experienced person that was very familiar with the bylaws and working. So that's the reason for this motion and the way this is being handled. Thank you.
Lily, you're muted.
Thank you for that. This brings us to member input, and I have Diane first in the chat.
All right. Well, I am on the bylaws committee, which I have been for several years. And some months ago, as Paxton has said, the bylaws committee reached out to Lawrence to consider rejoining the committee, on which he was a valuable member for several years. And Lawrence brings a set of skills to the committee, which is very much needed since we no longer have a fair lawyer sitting on the committee. As a past member of the committee, he's very knowledgeable about the OCF bylaws and the reasoning behind the changes, and understands the review we're going through. So I'm just encouraging the board to seriously consider reappointing him or appointing him to this committee, because boy, do we need Lawrence. Thank you very much.
Steve Berkson.
Hi. So I appreciate the work that everyone on the committee has done. I appreciate LT's willingness to step up. I want to point out that you don't have to be on the committee to provide advice and counsel. This relates to a discussion that took place on the wonderful elders list, and I think everyone should, all of the board members should review that discussion. The importance of the bylaws. This is the group that drafts the rules. Whether or not they pass them, you have to go through them, and they draft the rules for our entire community. So it has great reach, and it is of great importance when it's active. It's important that our rules and our procedures for appointing people are consistent and applied from committee to committee, and regardless of who's involved. And nothing that I'm going to say has anything to do directly with the people involved in terms of their qualifications or ability to do this role. It's also important for our processes to protect, especially for board processes, to protect the organization against impropriety or the appearance of impropriety, not just in this decision, but in future decisions that are similar to this one. And so I am going to ask that the board, so the LT is romantic partners with another person on this committee or a board member attached to this committee who also holds a position of power within the organization. And I think that it creates a problem for impropriety or the appearance thereof. In this discussion on Wonderful Elders, another applicant applied for the committee and has heard nothing. And while I understand the whole thing of needing certain special skills, justifying that after the fact rather than in advance of the fact provides that appearance of something may not be right that you want to avoid, even if no one's doing anything wrong. I think the board needs to take more of a role and more of a responsibility on the appointments and not just leave it to committees to tell them who should be appointed. And so without prejudice to LT in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to ask you to vote no, or to table this appointment, or to appoint LT, but reassign the vice president that's attached to it, to whom he's in a relationship with, to a different responsibility, and appoint a different board member to be the board member attached to this committee. And I'm going to ask that you review the process for these kinds of appointments, for whether or not this creates any kind of conflict, for how any kinds of conflicts that might arise through it would be resolved. And I suggest that you review that wonderful elders discussion. Thank you.
Kirk.
Hi. Wait,
The camera's not working.
camera's not working?
It's okay.
Okay. I just wanted to speak in regards to my being on the board. I spent 2 terms with LT on the board, and I had developed great respect for him in regards to his efforts on the bylaws committee because of his deep understanding of them. When I was wondering, well, what's that mean? I'd just look over at LT. That's the kind of gravity he carries and brings to it. But even more so, I've really enjoyed working with him, not because of his legal background, but because of his linguistics background. He actually is an amazing wordsmith. And I think anybody on the board would benefit from, and I had this experience many times. I would come bringing a motion filled with vigor and excitement about my great idea, and it would be just this gobbledygook of words. And he would go like, wait a minute, you need to say this, and you need to say this, and you need to say this. And you're like, oh, that's how you write a motion. And he's a wizard. He's an amazing man. And I think he's a tremendous benefit to this. And I hope that you do support his this motion. And I also want to just say, you know what? We're all volunteers. We're all smart. We all know our hats. We wear our hats. We can set aside our personal issues and do what's best for the fair. We all do this. When we have a good volunteer step up, we want to take advantage of it, just like that. Any rate, enjoy. Thanks. And Lily, thank you for all your board presidency work. Yay.
Yay.
Thanks.
Grumpy.
Well, until this discussion, I was going to make a joke about Lawrence. Who the heck is he? We know him as LT, and I'm a colleague of LT in the professional world, and you can't have a better choice than LT in doing this. And I had to laugh when Kirk said about the linguistic. If you need some linguistics, you need to talk to LT. Thank you, LT, for volunteering to do this.
Diane, I'm going to let other people speak because you've already spoken on this one. If we have time for a second round, then you can go for a second round.
Fine, thank you.
Yep. That brings us to Ren.
Hi. I just wanted to speak to this idea that that's somehow inappropriate for LT to be appointed to this committee because he's romantically involved with Lisa Parker, because our organization has a long history of people in various roles, officers, paid staff, committee chairs, all being involved with each other in different intimate ways, going all the way back to Cynthia and Bill Wooten in the old days and carrying forward into recent times. And as far as it goes, like very many of you know that I was involved with Lisa for many years, and we both had prominent roles at the fair. And I just want to speak to the integrity that she brings to the table as a board member. I've sometimes found it frustrating how close-lipped she was when I wanted to know things about the working of the board. I admired her integrity and the way she bent over backwards to decide what was right and what was wrong and what was ethical and what was not. And I haven't known many people in my life that emphasizes integrity as much as she does. And the idea that somehow there is some compromise because her and Lawrence was on the committee bothers me.
Palmer.
I also go way back on the bylaws committee, back to the days when we would meet at Russell's house and he would cook, and actually quite edibly. The bylaws committee, like all committees, serve at the behest of the board, at the direction of the board. You know, the bylaws committee does the work of the board. There are 12 people. Once you get past the committee, there's 12 people on the board that have to say yay or nay to anything that's going on. I can't imagine that LT, as I believe a Harvard Law School graduate, would put himself or our organization in any kind of jeopardy. Lisa P., I would trust my life with. She is a nurse. She saves life. She makes life and death decisions. I posted on Elders her response within the bylaws committee to a discussion we had. The result of that, from the same few people who generally respond, was definitely not positive, shall we say. LT is a wordsmith. I have a degree in journalism. I like to play with words too. I will disclose my favorite word is whilst. My father's favorite word was penultimate. Now you know the family secrets. We are fair family. Family works together, plays together. As was said, we're volunteers here. And where do you draw the line? A spouse on the board and a spouse on a committee? You know, we need LT. LT is very helpful. On the old personnel committee, we had what we call the Hotel California clause. You can check out, but you can never leave. We would bring people back in to do committee work who had been on the personnel committee before. It serves the board and the fair very well, and that's what we're doing again. I would really encourage you to please approve LT. If he's foolish enough to want to do it, we should be smart enough to take him up on it.
This brings us to board discussion. AJ, you had your hand up before.
I'm sorry, I just had my hand up. Can I get in on this?
Oh, of course you can. Of course you can, LT. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how this all works. Anyway, I'd also encourage you to look over the discussion on the wonderful elders list, and I encapsulated what I thought were sensible responses to all the issues were raised there, and I tried to get those distributed. So I won't spend any more time on that. I did want to say it was actually 18 years I spent in the bylaws committee, which is a little over a quarter of my 68 years. Good times, good food occasionally. I wanted to try to get an idea across about why this is what I want to do. You know, we're in a community in which so many of us, most if not all of us, have really distinct, unique, and in many cases, absolutely world-class talents and abilities. You think about the artisans and artists and entertainers and the builders and all the folks who put this community together. I have admittedly a fairly limited skill set, and it's not just respect to words, because there's a lot of people who do things with words that much better than I do. There's storytellers and journalists and people like Susie Przansky or Camille Cole who can put together these wonderful stories. There's people who can put together poems and songs like Jim Page. What I can do damned well is this kind of legal drafting, and I'm a geek for this stuff. When I entered high school, my sophomore year of high school, the first thing I did was I looked at the student handbook and I read the student constitution. I don't think most of my classmates knew there was one, and I said, this is awful. And I went to the student council and said, this is awful. And over the course of 3 years, that developed into an entirely new school constitution, which was voted on in my last weeks of high school. And I had the great good fortune of studying constitutional law under the preeminent constitutional scholar of our time, Lawrence Tribe. And I'm not, I mean, you name it. I mean, every person you love in the law and constitution studied under Larry Tribe, and and I am the least of those by all means, but I love this stuff. This is my dance. This is my joy, and I'm just asking for the opportunity to continue doing that. Now, some folks say, well, I can do it, but I don't need to be on the committee. But come on, I don't feel like it's very respectful. I honestly think that I'm not saying I deserve to be on the committee, but I'm willing to do what needs to be done one way or another. I do want to say to close it out, a couple things. One is just how deeply touched I was, how impressed I was with the board in respect to the new president, and particularly just how uplifted I was by AJ's comments about the new direction that he wants to be taking, folks. And I'm just really hopeful, and frankly I really needed an uplift after the last couple of days. And so like Palmer said, say the word and you'll be free. Say the word and be like me. Say the word I'm thinking of. Have you heard? The word is love.
Robert Jackson.
It's Jacobs, not Jackson, but yes.
Thank you,
Can
Jacobs.
you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I got on the meeting tonight because I read the elders list and I saw what to me seemed like a lot of nonsense and silliness about saying that LT's personal relationship should be something to keep him off that committee. He's smart, he's articulate, he has a huge amount of experience both in the law and in the country fair, and it seems obvious that if he's willing to do it, put him on that committee. And enough with the silliness. And thank you, AJ, for the comment about hearing the voting membership and responding in your current choice of president and direction. The vibe of this meeting already feels a whole lot better than the last few years. So, and Lily, that's nothing against you because you've done a great job of trying to satisfy a lot of diverse energy. So thank you very much, all of you. And that's enough for me for tonight. Thank you for letting me speak. AJ should be on that committee.
Spirit.
Yeah, I wasn't going to speak to this because y'all know how I feel, but what I continue to hear are concerns that continue to be discredited due to it being assigned ill intent. There have been very valid concerns that have been expressed in a very dispassionate way, but bringing actual valid concerns that I feel deserve to be addressed. And I feel that there is no possible way that an incoming board at this time can take all of that in this short time. If I was voting originally, I said I would have voted no, but I have changed my tune to hoping that the board considers actually tabling this with respect to the work that LT has done and also the experience that he brings to the table, but sending this to Fair Cares so that we can look at a more consistent way in which our committees actually recruit and the board actually appoints committee members. It could appear that right now there's just a bunch of appointments or recommendations for friends being on there, and whether or not that's the truth, there is the appearance of. And so I'm urging the board to really take that into consideration and not rush to this. I would ask that LT be very patient. LT, you and I don't get along. You've said some really, bad things about me and vice versa for me to you in the past. And so I want to assume that you want to move forward with good intention, but I think this board needs to take the time, hear the concerns, and make an informed decision instead of choosing sides right now. There is time to do this right. We have relationships between board and committees that need to be better defined and understood. So thank you for listening.
So we're still in member discussion. Kirk, is that Peach's hand or is that Kirk again? Because I'm not doing second rounds here.
Sorry, I know it's confusing. This is Peaches. I'd like a chance to just echo all of the things that have been said about, if we have volunteers who are willing to step into positions that they are well suited for, that we do that. And, there's a lot of different committees that operate in a lot of different ways that they choose. I mean, when we first were looking at all the NAO stuff, they were suggesting that we work like other boards that, recruited people who weren't members just specifically for, there's been all kinds of ways to suggested that we recruit people to committees and to board. And I think it's not a bad idea that we recruit people who have special skills to positions that suit them. That's not out of the norm. And I think that this makes it's kind of a no-brainer. I think that the red herring that these people can operate with integrity and also have relationships is kind of mean, and it doesn't really fit with the spirit of like, oh, we're going to do things in a different way. I think a delay on this is just kind of it's more quagmire, it's more division, it's more picking at old wounds, and I don't like it, and I support it. I think you should support this. Thank you.
Lainey?
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to Paxton for your explanation about the bylaws committee, the work that you do, and the reasoning behind rejecting my request to be, or my letter to be on the committee and taking Lawrence on, because having been a member who has been attending these bylaws committees, mostly because I wanted to understand what was happening with the changes and the amendments that were being made. And some of the concerns that I had were around some discussions I had. I think there was one session I went to, the first one, where Sam said something that I thought I couldn't believe I heard. And I just took it upon myself to continue to participate in the meetings because I wanted to understand how the changes were being brought about, the amendments, how were they being brought about? And I wasn't able to get that information in the minutes, and I wasn't able to read in a timely fashion a posting about a proposed amendment. I know there's supposed to be a posting in the newsletter that comes out that tells us that we are going to make changes to these bylaws, and then we're going to move it from new business to old business, and then we're going to vote on it. And all of us last month, when we voted to make an amendment to membership, not even everybody on the board understood the changes or had read the changes. And Lisa was describing all of the changes. And my request to participate was because, as just a member at large, no, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't even know Lawrence, and this isn't about me being against Lawrence. It, for me personally, was what's the process? And Paxton, you clearly explained to me that this is a committee that's in the middle or on the tail end of doing work. And I appreciate understanding that, because that gives me the clarification. But I also really think that it is important, some other people have discussed, that we really need to look at how we form our committees, because there were things that I found very alarming as a member at large when we were talking about changing bylaws that had to do with definition of who is a member and not a member. And we just voted on those changes. And I just think it was important for me to pay attention. And I'm just going to continue to participate in the committee, even though I'm not a member. But, and Paxton, thank you for the clarification of what the committee is about. It helps me understand why you rejected my request to participate on the committee and then out of nowhere ask another person to be on the committee at the same meeting that I was at. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to board discussion. It's 9:25. So board members, you certainly have the opportunity to speak, but please just keep the fact that we're over time in mind. I had AJ, you put your hand up at the beginning of member input on this one. Was your hand really up?
Yes.
Okay, so I had your hand and then Paxton, and then we'll go as people put their hands up now.
For me, this decision is about equity. I don't know LT, and I can appreciate all the friendly words that people have spoken up about him and his experience. But I believe that every person that wants to step up to volunteer has an important role, especially in the committee process. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or not. I find it difficult to vote for someone based on just their skill set alone when there is no outreach for the position. I think the only way that we can find compromise in this is that we are fair in this process of appointing folks to committees. And so I would bring a friendly amendment to the board that says that since Lainey has done the necessary things to become a member of the bylaws committee and has shown interest, that the amendment goes that we appoint both LT and Lainey to the bylaws committee as a compromise in appreciating both of their skills and both of their interests. I would also acknowledge that there has been
Wait, hold on. If you made a friendly amendment, we need to address it before you go further.
I'm finished with my friendly amendment, though. There's an addition to that as well. So I would also acknowledge that we have had a professor of cultural competency who has shown interest and put their application in to be a part of the diversity committee. Well qualified in Michael Connolly. He has been waiting for 6 months to be assigned to a committee. He is well qualified. If we're going to talk about qualifications, he's got just as great qualifications for his position. I would ask in my friendly amendment that he be assigned to the diversity committee as well. So my friendly amendment is to appoint LT and Lainey to the bylaws committee and approve and appoint Michael Connolly to the diversity committee.
Paxton, as the maker of the motion, do you accept the friendly amendment?
No, I do not. I think it's conflating two committees and it's not, in my opinion, appropriate at all.
Okay. So that brings us to Paxton.
I just want to say, I want to thank Lainey for coming and I want her to continue to come. We're open to anybody that wants to come to watch us work. Arna was there at the last meeting and I think she has got a better understanding of what we're actually doing by looking at our spreadsheet and seeing how we were going through it. In a sense, word by word. So we're on the last little bit of the work. And as I said, let's see. And there will be a full report coming out of it, and that will go to the board. I mean, it's a report to the board, and then that will get scheduled. Actually, it will never get moved from new to old quickly because it's a bylaws change. So it will actually probably get extra time to be discussed, and hopefully we'll have a board workshop on the revisions to it. I expect that will be the process. So there'll be plenty of time to comment and review it in my opinion. So we're doing a particular job of going through the bylaws that we were directed by the board. We're getting very close after 2 years of work to being done. So that's the goal. I think I just want to continue to work and get this job done. We need wordsmith, we need a lawyer. Thank you.
Sue?
Yeah, I know what it's like to serve on committees when you need people with certain skill sets. And it's wonderful when those skill sets come to the committee and say yes, or when they say yes, when we ask them to come in. I worked with LT on the board for 5 or 6 years. I know how integral his work was on bylaws. He's got the background, he's got the experience, he writes well. This will help the bylaws process wrap up a little faster. And I would also submit that it would also make for a better product when they're done. That's it.
Anne?
I support LT in this to the bylaws committee. I recall in either 2016 or 2017 when I was on the board that LT would be able to just say that needs to go through the bylaws, and it is really appropriate. I'm very concerned about the people who have suggested that professionals cannot separate their personal and professional lives, and that from any action they're taking. And this is something I've dealt with in my professional life, but recognizing, and a true professional can separate the personal and the professional in any working situation. And I feel that the people involved in this all have a lot of integrity. Thank you.
John Alexander.
Thanks. I'm going to do this as quick as I can, but I want to speak a little more broadly and then narrow in on this subject. While the new directors of the board had previously seen tonight's agenda, we had barely had time to consider it and its items of old business in an informed way. And in fact, just since the closing of yesterday's board retreat, we have received a lot of new information, backstory, and alternative membership positions about some of the old business items, including this one. And I appreciate that some of those old business items were removed. Given the minimal OCF specific training we have received so far and the information we have just recently and are likely to continue receiving, I think it's essential that our board of directors have time to cleanly and fairly address the issues that we will face as old business and new. And this includes committee processes and issues relating to perceived conflicts of interest and other perceived improprieties. And to this, I think the board of directors must prioritize the development of a board of director code of conduct and some standard operating procedures to help address these issues more generically or generally, as opposed to in a triage like issue by issue factor. And I'm confident the president's going to help us do that through our work plan. And it also appears that we may need to further clarify processes of nominating committee members, though I don't want to suggest that as a fact because of the great work that the committee best practices has done, and there's a lot of materials for me to learn. However, we won't be able to avoid contested issues forever, and so here we are today. And Lawrence is clearly an expert, and the committee appears to value his contributions and wants him as a member. We hear that with raised questions about partners serving on committees together, and I appreciate that this has been brought forward with transparency. This is just the kind of issue I think we need to address through a broader set of codes of conducts and standard operating procedures. And with that said, I don't believe that such codes nor policies are in place currently to actually question this nomination based on a relationship. I don't think those are in place right now. And plus, I doubt that when we develop codes of conducts that address issues relating to conflicts of interest or improprieties regarding members of households, family members or domestic partners, that it would apply to this disclosed relationship. And so I'm concerned that it might be a far reach to reject this nomination at this time. And so I'm concerned about that. So I stand ready to make a hard decision here, because I know I'm going to have to make a lot of them, and it's not always going to be popular to everybody to support this nomination.
Is there anyone else who'd like a first round? Okay. I think we should go to voting because we're 20 minutes. Oh, Arna. Okay.
I'm gonna try and make this quick, if I can. I think John brought up a lot of good points here. As new board members, we've been hit with a lot of new information in a very short time, and it does make it harder to make some decisions. My first reaction to this nomination was no. But then in thinking about it, you know, as John says, I think we need a policy about relationships with people in committees, but we don't have one. But as John says, even if we had one, I think that Lisa and Lawrence's relationship would never be covered. You know, they don't live together, they're not domestic partners, you know, so I don't think it would cover them. But we should have a policy. I actually trust the two of them to be professional and not have a problem with this. I went to the last bylaws committee meeting to watch how it worked, because I wanted to see how the committee worked together. And I am very impressed with the committee. I've always been impressed with LT. I've known him for a long time, and I've always been impressed with him. And I'm impressed with how the whole committee works. I still feel a little, to be honest, rushed into this because it's new business, you know, for me. It may be old business on the agenda, but it's new business to me because I'm new onto the board. I certainly would entertain, you know, accept a motion to table this just for another month to give us all a little bit more time. I don't see that as divisive or putting any, you know, being wrong or causing more, you know, quagmire or turmoil. I just see really, you know, tabling it for a little bit, for a month, would just give us a little space to think about this, make some decisions, look at what the membership input has been. You know, it was a long weekend. And, you know, coming into the meeting tonight, you know, I'm not sure I've caught up with everything. And, you know, but if we continue on with this vote, you know, I'll see how I vote. I'm not quite sure yet with this new information that has come to me. Thanks.
Kevin.
Yeah, I want to say I agree with Arna. I feel like it's you know, it's a lot that's come at us all of a sudden. I think tabling it, it's funny, I was one that said don't table, but I think tabling it is going to be the most fair process for us to make this happen. I believe in this new board, and I really believe that we will be able to figure out the best decision to make it fair, make it equitable, as well as LT. I appreciate your experience and what everyone said. I hope that you keep volunteering. Just give us till next month, and so that way we can really dial in the process. I just think that we just do need some more time for jumping into this. I don't want to make rash decisions, and I'd like to make sure we have a good fleshed out conversation. I know that we can all discuss this together and really come up with something good. So I definitely agree on the table. Thanks.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree with what both Kevin and Arna just said, and John as well. I think, I mean, I kind of harken back to what Sam said, that we're in interesting times with democracy, and I'm just really pleased that we're able to dissent and have a discussion that's difficult and do that with tremendous respect for one another. I have incredible respect for Lisa. I'm getting to know her more, and LT, I can sense he's incredibly intelligent. I most certainly think when I hear from Paxton that there's some very important work that needs to be accomplished in I lean toward supporting the nomination, and it is kind of difficult when we have just had our first training a day ago, and we're new to this, incredibly new to this. So it's complicated, and I recognize that the new board members, myself included, our brains are spinning a little bit trying to figure out a lot of what's occurring, but. I just applaud everybody for really being able to offer their thoughts and dissent. It's important. It's democracy.
Okay, given the time, I think going to a second round is gonna just make us go longer. I think Tom, if you'd like to do a second round, I think we'd need to vote on that, on extending the meeting.
Hey, Lily, we heard several people say they would like to table.
AJ, hold on, AJ. You don't have the floor. Nobody moved to table, and I haven't called on you yet. If someone moves to table who hasn't spoken in their first round, that's a different story. But no one's moved to table yet. It doesn't matter if someone mentioned that they thought it was a good idea. There's like a process for motions being made. And we have to follow the process for motions being made. So what I recommend, Tom, is for you to decide if you'd like to continue the meeting or the board should move to extend the meeting.
I do think the board should move to extend the meeting a little bit longer.
Okay. Will you make them? Would you like? So this is a question for you. This is a question for you as the new board president. Do you want to just decide to extend the meeting, or do you want to vote to extend the meeting?
I would like to decide to extend the meeting.
Okay. Do you want to set a time limit, or do you want to just let it roll?
I think we could probably do this in 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's 9:41 now. So we'll give 10 more minutes to this topic. So at 9:51, we'll be done with this topic. And we'll vote at 9:51, regardless of where we are in the stack. Okay. So we're going to go to first rounds still, and that's John.
I call the question.
Okay. Do we have to vote on calling the question, or do we just call the question, right?
Technically, we have to vote by Robert's Rules of Order. You have to vote on calling the question.
Okay.
Chair itself has been really loose on doing that. And generally we interpret that to mean just that you get a chance to vote.
That we'll just vote? Okay. That's how the fair's been doing it. So then
we should vote on
voting on it.
Wait,
yeah, we vote on calling the
hold
question.
on. Everyone stop talking. I can only hear one of you at a time.
We should vote on calling the question. That's
So-
what you're supposed to do.
So if that's how Robert's rule says it, that's an interesting component. But if the fair hasn't been doing it that way, I'd like to hold up what the fair's procedures.
We have been voting on calling the question.
Okay, so then we'll vote on calling the question. Okay. So this is a vote not on the question itself, but just on calling the question. Tom,
Say that again.
we're voting on calling the question. So right now we're making a decision on whether we are going to vote on the thing without further discussion.
Right. I would like more time.
So that's a no.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Yeah, I'd like more time too, so it's a no.
John Alexander,
No.
Arna,
No.
Sandra,
No.
John Silvermoon,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
AJ,
No.
Sue,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and George is absent. So that motion does not pass. 5 in favor. Tom, Kevin, John Alexander, Arna, Sandra, and AJ opposed. So we're not calling the question, which means that we'll go back to first rounds. And I'm just trying to see, Sandra, have you spoken on this topic yet? You have not. So Sandra, that would be you.
So that my hand was up for the call the question issue.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then we don't have anyone else who would like a first round, so then we go to AJ.
So the first thing I would say is I would hope in the new board that everybody gets held to the same standard. Earlier, I interrupted and I was told that it wasn't the floor. And then we witnessed several people interrupting around the call the question, and they didn't get the same rebuke that I got. So I want us to really pay attention to being fair. And then second, I would say that we heard several people, especially our new board members who are considering our first big kind of contested issue, ask for more time. So I make a motion to table this until next month with the idea that I respect you, Lawrence. I respect this whole process and what everybody has said. I think it really is important for us to have some time to discuss it with the new board and then vote on it next month. This is not a hurry. It's not in a hurry for us to do this. It is, LT has been showing up to the meetings. He can lend his advice over the next month.
So AJ, in the past, Stephen Berkson reminded me that if someone's going to make a motion, that's all they can do in that chance of raising their hand. You can't also speak. So would you like to continue speaking, or would you like to make a motion with this chance of raising your hand? I'm happy for you to do either.
I will make a motion to table this
Okay.
until next month.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Arna seconds. Okay. So let's vote on that. Lisa. Lisa?
No.
Paxton? Paxton?
Oh, excuse me, I muted myself instead of unmuted myself. No.
Sue?
No.
AJ? AJ?
Yes.
Ann?
No.
John Silvermoon?
No.
Sandra?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
John Alexander?
No.
Kevin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
So that motion does not carry with 5 in favor, Lisa Paxton, Sue, and John Silvermoon, and John Alexander opposed, and George absent. So we'll keep discussing. We have 4 minutes left. The stack for second rounds brings us to John Alexander.
So here we are, and I welcome civil bit of not total agreement. So it's great, and thank you all for working through this, and now for the curveball. We've now, I sent an email out that said that it was not great for us to have old business with a new board earlier today, and that a lot of these issues were going to be tough for us to handle without a lot of information. And but now here we are, and we've done the business, and we've got a lot more business to take care of in the several months. And I feel like we've been through it, and we've heard the discussions, and we've heard the membership. And therefore, I'm concerned that if we table and we don't pass this now, that it's just going to take up more time in the future. And I think that Peach has made a really good point that it will just carry forward this the contest. And so that's why I am from now making the decision, because now it is our old business. Not technically, but it feels like it. So let's get this done.
Arna? Okay. John Silvermoon. Nope, Sandra's before John. Sandra? Was that still? Yeah.
I have a process issue.
Okay.
When somebody makes a motion and it's seconded, they are afforded the opportunity to talk to the motion.
So this is something that Stephen Berkson educated me on recently, is that you can either make a statement or you can make the motion.
No, that's a call the question. When you call the question, you cannot also make a statement. But if you're, like Paxton made the motion, it was seconded, and then he spoke to it. So I
Can I
just
offer
want
a point of order on that to help? So non-debatable motions.
But wait, hold on. I would love to learn more about this, but there's not a motion on the table. This is passed. We already voted not to table. I would love to talk to you both offline about this when there is something, so that I can learn, so that next time something relevant is open, we can talk about it. But
It's all about fairness, though. It's all about fairness.
Yeah, and I'd like to learn how to make that perfect decision, but since it's not still open on the table, I'd love to learn about it offline so that we can work on the motion that is on the table now.
It doesn't fix the now, though. This is so frustrating. It doesn't fix the now. I keep getting stuck with this, and it doesn't fix the now, Lily. It's not fair.
I mean, I don't know a time that I held a different opinion on motions that were closed, so that to be accused of unfairness now, like to have been accused of unfairness on my misinterpretation of a rule that I haven't ever applied before.
But you can go back and say, I give you back the floor. You have that power.
And unvote for a motion?
No, you can go back, say you could speak on the motion. I mean,
it's on the stack.
Yeah.
So let's get back on track.
Yeah. So Sandra.
Yes, that was my comment.
Okay. AJ.
I think you're muted, AJ.
I'm going to take a deep breath, and I know this is, I think this is frustrating, but I'm hoping that we deal with these sort of things and make sure that all of us board members feel like we're having a fair voice in things. And Lily, I don't mean to get on you, but it just seems like I always end up falling in the in the zone where conversations are stopped. And anyways, I'm going to say on this, again, I will say that I don't have any problem with LT joining this committee, but I think it's important for us to look at the membership as well. There are several members out there that have wanted to be appointed to several different committees and have been waiting for a long time. All of our committees are board committees. And to say that this person is so important, way more important than the other folks, that they need to be right now appointed to this committee, really does a disservice to all the other volunteer people who've stepped up and said they want to help this organization move forward. I would encourage this board to look at them and understand what this vote will do to them and show them how important their service is to this organization.
So we have Kevin and then Thomas, and then I've closed the stack and we'll vote.
Yeah, so it was more of a kind of a question with Paxton regarding AJ's earlier compromise of having Laney, if we could pare it down to Laney and LT being on there, would that be something that could work in the name of equity and trying to include folks and trying to make it happen? Because I see the value in Lawrence Taylor just from what everyone's saying. And so I definitely believe in that. I also agree with AJ. And so trying to see, I don't know if I can ask Paxton a direct question like that, and as far as what that might look like, as far as having Laney on there. I also heard Laney understand the process better. And so I think she understands that it is a process and that they are in the middle of a big project. And so just curious about that. I'm not sure if that's the thing. I guess perhaps asking for a friendly amendment would be the idea.
Paxton, do you accept the friendly amendment?
That would be the appropriate way to do is ask it as a friendly amendment. And no, I do not. We're at the end of our work session. In reality, I don't think we're trying to finish up. So no, I do not.
Tom, and then we vote.
Yeah. So I think there's, and John Alexander and I had a conversation earlier today just about the work that the board is going to engage in. The new members of the board are, like, as I mentioned, just coming up to speed. And a lot of times things that occur that we need or that necessitate a vote inform the types of policy decisions we make as a board and the discussions we need to have. I'm landing at this point in supporting this and moving forward, but also recognizing that we need to dig in as a board and do work around the equitable practices for determining membership in committees. It's a complicated thing because the fair is complicated. And I've talked to Lily off about this, lots of different procedures and ways in which people go about becoming part of a committee. And it's historically different for probably every single committee. So I support this with the knowledge that I do want to step into this and lean into this as a board to make a determination about the things that we need to be doing to make this type of practice in our community equitable. Thanks.
Okay, let's vote. AJ, this is on the actual motion of appointing LT to the bylaws committee. AJ?
I abstain.
Anne?
I support the motion to select LT.
John Silvermoon?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
John Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
That motion passes with 10 in favor, AJ abstaining, and George absent. Thanks for getting through that with me, folks. And for Sandra and Stephen Berkson, I'm happy to have that discussion offline so that I can learn a little bit more about how to manage that situation. This brings us to new business. We're done with our old business. Who has some new business to place on the agenda?
I do.
Sue?
Yes. Conflict of interest declaration for Stephen Dyerkoff. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? John Silvermoon?
Formation of a resource development committee, formerly known as fundraising committee.
Okay. AJ?
Yes, I would like to add a motion to direct the executive director to hold all recordings and post of open meetings and post them on the .net site to be available to membership to watch.
Any further new business items? I see, just to reiterate to those who don't have the agenda in front of them, we have the Financial Planning Committee review projections of 2023. Paxton is bringing that motion. We do also need a motion on updating bank signers with new officers. Do we have someone who is not an officer who's willing to make that motion? Sue will make that, okay. Okay, any other motions for new business for the December 2022 meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I need to make I don't know how I do this, but a motion for me to disclose a conflict of interest.
Okay.
I'd like to, yeah.
Okay. Paxton?
Great. I just wanted to make sure I'm handling the financial projection, and I think I heard Hillary say that the actual documents were up on the .NET site, and I hope they're in the actual board working documents so that we can easily find them on
Great.
the financial projections.
Thanks for the good reminder about that.
I have one more.
Okay.
When you're ready.
I am ready.
I have a motion to appoint Michael Connolly to the Diversity Committee.
Okay. Any other motions? Okay. The next board meeting is Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Tom, would you like to honor us with your first president's piece?
Sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Lily, for just supporting me in learning. I'm literally 16 hours into this, so I just very much appreciate it, and I appreciate you helping with the meeting tonight. So I owe you a debt of gratitude. I just wanted to reflect again something that Sam said earlier about democracy and about our ability to work together in difficult times. I think the fair represents something that is a beautiful community and something that is a beacon of light in a time that is really quite difficult. I mean, elections are occurring right now. We don't know what the outcomes are going to be, and it is incredibly important, I think, that we do pull together. We can have difficult conversations. We can move through those conversations into something useful and beautiful. But it is we have some days ahead of us as a society that could be difficult, and that is going to require all of us to put aside any pettiness that we might bring to any situation outside of the fair, in the fair. I work oftentimes with kindergartners, and they teach me a lot about the world because they see the world through very innocent eyes. Our work, to me, is about grabbing onto the things that are good in life and recognizing the difficulties of having hard conversations, but also recognizing the ability to come through those conversations in a way that moves our community into a better place. So I really appreciate all the learning that I'm doing. I appreciate all the help, and I appreciate the ability to dig into some really neat things this year. So thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Good luck forward of 2022 to 23.
Oh, yeah.
Good night, everyone. Lily, you don't have original sound on, so the bowl can't be heard.
Oh, really?